just took possession of 13, I think, tanker trucks, Jet A tanker truck, diesel, basically, from the state of Idaho. They have use for 9 of them, and they want to donate 1 of them to us, the county. And the reason for that is because of the helicopter use, and I'll get into more of that a little later here. But helicopter suppression of fires, and as well as the search and rescue missions that are there useful for. If what comes with this donation to us, we can use it however we want, however we do. What our obligation is to have it available to refuel the helicopters that come and go, as well as off of our new Jet A tank. We got double the ability to fill that tanker up and position it closer to a fire or to a search and rescue mission. And with that comes the bonus of being able to, and I got to work this with Matt O'Leary, the state of Colorado fire part of the state right here gets a break on fuel to the tune of $2 to $3 a gallon, which is significant. And we will get that break for all the fuel that we purchase, even in our big tank, because we're being part of the fire suppression and emergency evacuation system of the state in this area here for the helicopter support in particular. That doesn't mean we can't support medevacs and other things with the other aircraft. So this is a great opportunity. That truck will be available in April next month, and then we'll decide then how we're gonna, the details on the logistics of receiving that truck. It's not a new truck, but it's not an old one either. The state of Colorado is using them, like I said, 9 of them I think they're going to position it near Pagosa Springs. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'll find out more details on that later. So I just want to make you aware that I've talked to Brian Anderson, the airport board, already about it. They're excited about it as well. And so we'll just see how things play out now and how it interfaces with the rest of what we've got going. So that's my quick summary. Any questions for now?
So that truck's middle-aged?
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
I said the same thing. It's
I'm old, not young,
No, I know it's not middle aged, but it's not
that's
old.
48 years old.
It's like you, yeah, Lucas. But that's why I say I don't know the details. They said that I need to get a hold of O'Leary to get the specifics on it, and then we'll see where we. But that's a good question.
It's just coming into all the aches and pains.
Yeah,
that was my comment too. What's it leaking?
Yeah, because things aren't working very well, and I'm worried.
It only gets better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. So
but you've shown me
anyway, that's the airport board will be meeting and we'll discuss that further with them as well, and then we'll get the details, and we'll be back at a future date here next meeting. Might have more details on our next week's meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So we have brought in Redlands Consulting to do a week-long process, going through our books, meeting with our department heads, elected officials, and starting they have started with the 22 audit adjustments. She was able to tie the 2022 balances in each of the funds to the 22 audited financial statements. The general fund was the only fund with a small difference. That difference was $9,907.04. And that adjusted journal entry got put in this morning. So in a couple hours, 22's books should be clear and net zero on both revenue and expenses. We're going to start 23's process here soon and kind of do a help us go through all of 23. Where are we at? What do we need to still do to finish up 23 before we go with the audit information to our auditor. Basically, Shuey's, Redlands is gonna propose doing kind of an audit of 23, a pre-audit and then do what Sam DiNardo usually does is here's all the adjusted journal entries. We're gonna do those in-house, get to that place where we can make all those adjustments, here, in our books and get that cleaned up and then start going through 24's budget and get our journal entries all processed out throughout all of our departments so that they match, and then we'll start training our staff to make sure that they know where fuel goes or mileage reimbursement goes or whatever the case may be, that it's starting to get coded to the right ledger amount, so we're not making these adjusted journal entries. And then in our proposal, we'll start to consider going back through the credit cards and seeing what's owed there, get those cleaned up. And then start putting, all this was created by a lot of missing internal controls, policies and procedures. And we'll start putting those together, workflows, and getting that started moving forward as well. So I guess I'll open it up for a few questions since we are.
Let me ask you one real quick before you open it to the floor.
Sure.
I was gonna ask about the credit cards, so you took care of that. That sounds real good. I think it's important for everybody to understand that Redlands, what's her first name?
But Lisa is her first
Lisa.
name.
Yeah. That's what she used to do for a living. She was an auditor that audited county books, municipal books, and those kinds of things. So I really liked, and I saw that in the emails, I gathered that. The fact that we're going to do a pre-audit, basically, is what you said, and have her do that first cut, like you would if she were auditing our own books, right? Is that what you proposed?
Yes, correct. That's what we've talked about doing. Maybe be the best use of our time, because we have to get it done by July 31st. That is the state's deadline to have that audit process to the state. We don't want to miss that date. And there's a lot of things that doing this pre-audit, we'll be able to catch a lot of, maybe some of those as we implement internal policies and procedures that we'll find out by doing this pre-audit and going through. I mean, either way we spend the money, but we're better off spending the money up front than trying to correct everything on the back end of it. So after we get the audit back, and then we're almost into next budget season already by the time we get that back and we start making those corrections. We need to do it on the front end, get things processed right, and then go from there.
Yeah, that's for sure. She have a goal in mind to shoot for, not July 31st, but how about September, or not September, June 30th or something, or middle of.
Well, I think what we need to look towards doing is no later than April 1st to have it to the auditor.
That's a month away to our auditor.
To our auditor, April 1st if we can, so that would be the big goal, is to get 23 dialed in so that we can hand that information off. Vernon Roth has already gone out and sent a list to all department heads and elected officials. Here's what you need to start gathering for us. There's a couple 99-year leases I found out about that I gotta get the paperwork on and make sure we have those. One is for the Saddle Club, and the other one is for that little piece that Silver Cliff kind of maintains with their boulders and their signs on the mines that are there. So we own that, and Buck has made a verbal offer to me to buy that from us.
Not at all authorized by the town, so. But
No,
just
just
so they're clear.
right. All right. Dan has not approved that on either side. But
Tell you
that's.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, I did see Vernon's note. That's what prompted me to ask that question. I like the idea of shooting for the end of April. That's a noble goal, and that would be great if we can make it.
At first April, for sure, you know, May 1st, you know, what always took so long is gathering up our information. So if we can gather up our information, all departments, and we can have it gone through by Redlands Consulting, and they go, okay, you've got everything that he should need. He doesn't have to come up. We just take it to him, or we ship it to him and through the mail, or whatever we need to do to get it to him. So we're not wasting the time there, so.
Any thoughts on whether the credit cards are gonna be able to be solved quickly or not, Lucas? Cause I know that sounds like the last big item.
So to do those, we're gonna have to get the paper copies of everything as far back as when the account got started. And then we'll have to start going through with CIC, and we'll have to just go through, okay, this department had this amount for this month, and they made either that whole payment or they made a partial payment, and we'll have to start tracking what's been going on all the way through. So it's a fairly big project. So. Yeah, I'm out, and it's one of those things we need to go back and clean up, but, and then figure out how we're gonna deal with that and, get policies and procedures in place for credit cards moving forward, so.
Anything else, Bill? You're muted.
No, I got it. You're good.
Just checking. All right, and then you're opening it up for some questions.
Yeah.
Mr. Gilbert.
Quick question, you touched on policies and procedures and implement and have in place. Are you intending to create a policy procedures manual for the finance department?
Yes, sir, as well as IT, as well as HR. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, John.
John Van Dorn, and I'm gonna speak for everybody who's been following the finance audit story. This is a great sigh of relief for me. And I think, for you, Commissioner App, who's been carrying the water for this, for the last few months. So I have a question. It sounds like this person is a great find for us. You see a continuing relationship with Redlands going forward?
I do see that. I think, in light of finding somebody that is really, of what I've seen thus far and what's gone through the selection committee, the finance department selection committee, is that I would like to see, since accounting is a very technical skill, is that Redlands comes in once a month and does those very detailed accounting processes that we need of reconciling our cash, reconciling our payroll, doing the fine tuning to that month. And that's maybe hopefully around a week's time. It probably will take more time up front until we really get our finance director and Redlands Consulting going back and forth and getting used to what they need to do and how they need to proceed through the year. And by the time we get to the end of the year, well, then we're just finishing up the end and we should be able to, so that's kind of what I see it going to right now, unless something else comes up or unless our finance director is very, very acute with those types of situations where they can do that end of month reconciliation. But then if we do it month to month, then we should be ready by the end of the year to roll it all up, do the few things that we need to do at the end of the year to tie everything together, and then here, come March 1st, Sam Donardo, here's our stuff. Look through it. It keeps him out of any of the bookkeeping that he's, I don't think is necessarily that he can't do, but maybe we need to keep him out of and do in-house. And make those fees go down. That's, I think, what our goal would be, is to spend the money in-house and upfront, and then make those fees on the back end, and he can go, yep, these are where they should be, or, hey, I see this, okay, then we can go back and we can go, okay, what are the steps that we need to clean this part up if we have an error? So I see.
Anything else? Nadine?
Hi, Nadine Peterson. I was hearing you, Lucas, say that you don't expect the finance department head that you're going, or you were planning to hire, that they would be able to do reconciliations. You weren't sure about that. So I'm wondering, are you actually looking for a qualified finance director who can do all of this stuff, and we won't need Redlands to come in every month?
That would be the goal. If we can find that, great. That would be the end result. But if we can't, then we need to look at other options as well. And maybe we need to do some things just for the first couple of years to make sure that we are doing everything that we're supposed to be doing, and not catching it at the end of year audit, but catching it through the year. So maybe it's quarterly. I don't know what that looks like yet.
Let me make a comment.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, yeah, Nadine brought up a good point. I was gonna bring up something similar, but what I think we need, and I know that's where Lucas is headed. We need a finance director that is a finance director that is capable to do that and bring things together in the end. What may not happen right away, depending on what we can pay and what people apply to yet, and what he said up front, we haven't seen that yet in the applications that we've got. We've got a couple more that we've got to look at yet, and we're going to keep looking at until we find a qualified person. Regardless, that person still has to be trained up on the system. It still has to be transitioned over. And we're lucky to have Redlands here to be able to help do that. And whether it takes a year to do that or whatever, we're going to do what's right for the county the best way we can to be fiduciarily responsible as we can with the citizens' money. There's no question about it.
Correct.
Okay. Did you have another follow-up, Nadine, or did you just not take your hand down?
No, I'll ask, could I ask another question? Sort of related to, well, it's related to finance, just not to the finance director.
Sure, one more.
Go ahead.
Okay. How is the outsourcing of the payroll going? Because I know you had authorized Jen to check with, is it CIC, to see if they would be able to do a reimbursement of the $3,000 if we didn't need their training. So are you outsourcing?
We're going forward with the training. ADP's basic plan is double what we pay for CIC's portion of the payroll right now. There's quite a few of us that don't like the bolt-on program of Time Clocks Plus, but there seems to be some user error and there seems to be some things that weren't set up correctly, either from the beginning or through the transition of staff or just through lack of training of everybody that puts time into time clock. So we want to make sure that before we for sure jump out of that, the CIC can't perform that in a manner that we want it to. And then ADP has two different payroll outsourcing plans. One is a very basic thing like what CIC is doing now. We still enter the time. All we do is send them, hey, here's who's pays what. And that simple program is double what we're paying now for CIC. But if we go to their more comprehensive plan, and that includes some of the HR portions we're looking at too, then it really drives the cost up. So I'm trying to get apples to apples comparison between the different companies that are out there, both Paychex and ADP. So we're still looking into it.
All right. Do you have something?
I was gonna say that I think in the future, this probably ought to be an unfinished business item if we're gonna have
Oh,
longer discussion.
okay.
Rather than just more of an update, here's what I've been doing.
Okay.
And I think that might be fairer to the public.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Oh, you're right. I agree.
Anything else from you, sir?
No, sir.
Just a quick note on, for me, I did attend the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments meeting yesterday. They are probably just like, a lot of other entities at this present time now, to where they have a lot of programs that were instituted because of what came down from the state and federal government that was funded through COVID money. And now all that COVID money is going away and they're expecting them to continue services. So there's a pretty good struggle there. I know a lot of that is the area on aging, which also operates in Custer County here. So some of their programs are probably going to be cut. One that doesn't affect Custer County so much is also the preschool that operates down there in Fremont County. They're also basically cutting, I believe, about 15 spots on their for the kids there, just so they can make budget. So just a quick note on that, that there's a lot of the programs through COG that are being looked at very seriously now because of all the money's going away, but the mandates are still there.
Okay.
Dan, do you have anything for us today?
I do not.
Kelly?
Nothing.
All right. No unfinished business, new business would be the consideration of.
Hang on a quick second, Kevin, because Dan brought up unfinished business. I was going to mention this at the end of the meeting, and maybe it that is an unfinished business. You brought it up, Dan. You just said we ought to do things as unfinished. I want to ask if this is an unfinished business item. Don't care if we resolve it today or not, but this is it's related to the District Attorney 11, DA 11 attorneys fees that we are obligated to share with Chaffee County, et cetera, et cetera. I just sent you the email I received to each of you, and our share of defending to the DA's members that were charged with. I can read it to you, but you've got it there. Bottom line is, let me read this. It says, we share the 11th Judicial District Attorney fees. As you are likely aware, two members of the DA office, Jeff Lindsay and Aaron Pimbleton, were subject to disciplinary proceedings in 2023 and initially requested that the 4 counties comprising of the district reimburse fees and costs related to their defense in these proceedings. The attorney for Chaffee County determined that the reimbursement was to wait until they concluded those proceedings, which made sense. We don't need to pay for something unless we know what happened. It turns out in January of 24, they were informed that Chaffee County that the proceedings had been dismissed and requested that they be reimbursed the cost to defend them. Their attorney for Chaffee County believes these fees are reimbursable. And since the cost is incurred to discharge their official duties and the benefit of the counties comprising of the judicial district, the invoices presented are attached, and the total was 10 grand, roughly 10,500. Our share is $601.71. So that we can either decide how we want to handle that. It seems it's reimbursable. I don't know what that means. We need a little more information. I don't know that this is something we agreed to do in the past to support a share, but this is what I'm laying out, and I'm just putting it on the floor just to discuss. We can discuss it at a later date under new business, old business, unfinished business. Over to you.
Well, I would say that this is Dan. I've had some conversations with Mr. Tom, who's the Chaffee County attorney, as well as Brenda Jackson, who's the Fremont County attorney on this particular issue. And I think everybody's in agreement. I haven't had any conversation with Park County, which would be the 4th county in the district. But I think everybody's pretty much in agreement that we have an obligation to pay for the fees for these attorneys if the charges are dropped, but not if they're subject to this. If they end up being subject to discipline, then we wouldn't be have to pay for those fees. In this case, those charges for those 2 attorneys were dropped. And so I think the law is pretty clear that we have an obligation to pay for those or to reimburse those fees, subject to whatever our percentage is, which is why it's 600 and change. So, I mean, we can have further discussion about that, but I don't think there's a whole lot of gray area there in terms of what our obligation is.
So is this on top of the fee we already pay monthly?
Yes.
Yeah, it's defense fees, Lucas.
There's no, they didn't have that budgeted? Or some amount of budgeted money?
No, they don't really budget for ethical
Ethical
defenses. And these individuals, I believe, had to go out and pay for their own defense.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, this didn't come out of the DA's budget.
Okay,
This is something these individuals had to pay for individually for their own attorney.
yeah, that'd be a conflict of interest, wouldn't it?
And it's like us trying to budget for a projected lawsuit. You can't do it unless it happens, so you don't know.
Hey, Bill, I don't have that email.
I should have. I sent it to each of you right before the meeting started. If you don't, I'll forward it.
Yeah, please do. You might have left me off.
It's coming from my,
As you're on there,
Was it?
you're on there.
Huh?
at your outlook.com email address.
Oh. Might have went in
That's why
trash.
you pulled it. I'm sorry, I didn't go to your county email.
Went to junk.
That's where all that DA stuff goes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it in here, but not saying.
I'll resend it, Lucas. We,
Appreciate that.
me,
Send it
if
to
we're
my-
obligated to do it, I'm the reason it came to me is because I'm the point of contact for the DA stuff, have been for
Okay. All
And
right.
so I can, I'll see what the rest of the county's doing. If they're starting to pony up, then I'll put a request for an invoice to be paid for the $601.
I'll tell you that Fremont is paying. So the only question, I guess, is Park. I don't know where Park stands on this.
I sent it to you.
I did too. You're gonna get like 4 of them.
Better than none of them.
Okay.
All right.
No, thank you. when, yeah, I mean. So this is
Consensus,
one of
I
the-
think we should do it.
Right. These are the last minute things, especially for unfinished business that we were talking about that. And we've taken quite a few, it's been very suggested by the audience, by the citizens, that we don't bring up stuff during a meeting that they weren't aware about.
Yeah. There's not a rush to pay this today, so why don't we put this on the agenda
For March 6th.
for the next meeting, yeah, and then that way.
I don't have a problem with it.
Can make an actual decision without fear that we've not notified the public that we're having this discussion.
Okay, and then.
And plus, I mean, the reality is it just came to the two of you this morning.
Right.
I don't.
So, no, and then, we can, if we approve that, then, it'll be on the AP run for 13th of March. So,
Yeah, it still makes the same time, so it doesn't matter.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
well, thanks for making us aware of that, Bill. Okay, new business. We've got, first thing is the consideration of the accounts payable.
iWorks is on there again. We're gonna void that off of there and get that removed from that run. We're not going forward with that. Dorothy Carson's working on using Q Public, so. That should be a lot better source, and we already use it with the assessor, so. The price difference was, I wanna say it was $700 instead of 5,000 for the year, so. If I remember right, somewhere roughly that.
And a couple questions I had were answered beforehand, so I've got no questions on that.
So.
I'm clean here too. Go ahead.
Did you have a chance to look that over?
Yes.
Okay,
And it's on page 19 of 74.
and nothing from you then, Bill, on it?
Nope, nothing.
Okay. I would entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the AP run. For 229.24. Let me get to the totals.
I'll second it.
$775,710.84, minus
5,000,
minus 5,000.
770,710.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to approve the AP report after removing iWorks as for the sum of 70,710, or it'd be $770,710.84. Any further discussion here?
That's right.
Any public comment? Here. Nadine, did you have public comment, or your hand is still up? Okay. Those in favor of approving the accounts payable as amended, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Next item would be the consideration of selecting a date to interview BOCC admin assistant applications.
Yeah, I put that on the agenda. I'll bring it up for you. We've got 2 new applications in. And I've discussed this with our HR as well. Looks like, and he's gonna take care of putting the questions together, and what we need to do next is select a date that we want to interview this, and add it to, the others that we've interviewed, and then close this out. Well, I'm free next week, on, Thursday, not Thursday, but, Tuesday.
Sounds good. What time?
Well, how many do we have? I think we're gonna have to have a couple hours, so we ought to probably start 9:30ish.
Okay.
You said Tuesday?
Do that.
Okay. So we're looking at-
Tuesday, 9:30.
Tuesday at 9:30.
I'll talk with Bob Smith. We'll set up a schedule of the interviews, and we'll get it out as soon as we get it.
Sounds good.
And now that we have an HR director, you don't need me there, I'm assuming.
We always.
No, you don't. No, that's the right answer.
Wait a minute, you just stuck us with one. We're gonna, no, I'm kidding you, Dan. That's fine with me.
You are
Those
hereby formally excused, but stay by the phone in case we have a question.
I'll be across, I'm actually gonna be across the street at the court, so.
Okay, so, date and time on that is Tuesday, March 5th at 9:30 a.m.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
You sure you're gonna be back by then, Bill?
I don't know, it's getting to be hard to leave now. I'm beginning to speak the language.
and, that's.
Garbage, collage.
That's assuming that now that the HR department is vetting these, and bringing, if one is not actually they're qualified, I guess, to be interviewed, that would not come to us. I'm looking at you, Bob, so, and you're shaking your head yes, so. All right. So that takes care of that, item. Next item would be the consideration of payment to Southern Colorado Surveying and Mapping for airport hangar lots survey.
I brought that one on. I'm gonna have you go back in time and recall that the airport board came to us. I remember which meeting it was, with a point that the surveys aren't current on the whole airport. They are different errors with different things with multiple errors now that are showing up. So we've got Southern Colorado Surveying and Mapping that is doing the county work for us, as we pay by the drink. The big picture is the whole airport's not done yet, but this is in the preliminary one. This was the first one, had higher priority because it's staking out the 5 new lots on the east side of the runway that run north and south. So it goes from the north down to the south off the ramp. These are the big hangars for the bigger aircraft, 5 of them. And we've got one that is leased potentially once the survey is complete. The first hangar is, and so that's what it's pending, and that's what's driving the need to get this survey completed, and that's why they didn't. This is the cost of just staking those 5 lots right now with that company, Altman, and so it's I just brought it forward for us to take a look at and approve today.
Question for me, is this not something they should have just ran through the AP run and paid out of their budget?
Oh, and here's the reason. It was looked at as a capital improvement in order to clean up the survey in general for the airport, and we had discussed that in the past. That was why that came through. If they had in the initial budgets, they were looking at the maps as they had, they thought they were accurate, and they are not. So they needed an accurate point in order to have a deed written up that would be legally binding when you have to have the surveys in. So that's why, from a county point of view, this would be was looked at as a capital improvement piece of money.
But it's not a year 24 budgeted capital improvement, is it?
No, it was, it happened in 23, so that, and then they completed it on the 24th. They started the survey. They came in and went through it, and they had brought this up during the budget discussions that this was the airport survey was going to be part of it, and they hadn't had a point in time where they had an estimate on what it would be, and that's why we said that was probably where it would come from when we had our discussion.
Okay, so this is work that's already been done. It was executed in 23, finished in 23, and we just now got the invoice.
It was actually finished. It started it and it went through Lucas. It started in November when they started looking at it, and they finished it on the 5th. They wrapped up the drawings on the 5th of January.
Okay. All right, I'll go back through and look where that capital outlay money is at for that 1,500.
Okay, that's all we need to do. We don't have to make a decision, Dave. I wanted to make sure it was considered so we knew what we were gonna do with it.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're
Hey,
gonna,
let me ask you something, Bill. What are we getting for these hangar leases?
You know, the actual, it's I'll have to look at, they've changed the, that, you know, that, I don't know the exact amount, Lucas. It's by the square foot, and it's like $120 a square foot, something like that. We're gonna have to take a look at it and see what the bottom is. But let me have them bring that in. They're gonna give us a report anyway on the next meeting, so we'll see where we
Okay.
are.
Well, it'll be the 13th. Right?
That's what I should say, the 13th.
Cause that's when we do the staff reports or department reports.
Correct. And we'll get this mailed in before that happens. Emailed to me.
Okay. All right.
and you're gonna check on that,
Yeah,
okay?
I'll dig through that with Vernon.
Consideration of the Homeland Security Grant application. I believe you brought that to us.
Good morning, Robin.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Hi, Bill.
Oh, Robin.
Bonjour, that's all he answers to.
Bonjour, madam. Well.
Okay, so this is the Homeland Security Grant. We have some years applied for it and some years not. Last year we had no grant, so this is my first application. I don't know why we aren't using this form. I found this on our website. It's the pre-grant application form. I had a different form last year or last month with, it was a Google form. But this one's been around, I think, 2018. Have you seen it before? Ooh, no. Okay. And I'll give you my copy after I'm done. So this, you know, summarizes what the grant is, the description. It's a federal grant that is given to the state, that's given to the region. Then there's a board of which I'm a member, along with the other 4 counties. And then everybody brings these projects to the table. They deem them as eligible or ineligible. And then we negotiate as a board what kind of money is spent on the projects. There's a total of $300,000 at the region level. So we're competing for the grants. And what I have given you is a draft, because I don't have all of the information yet. It is due tomorrow. I'm waiting on some computer bids. And they are 3 projects, one cybersecurity for a computer laptop cache of 10 computers. As you remember, in Fremont, they had a terrible cyber attack. And this, what really saved them was the fact that they had these 10 computers that had never been on their network and were not infected. So this is a opportunity to get something like that for the county. that all departments could use. Talked a little bit to our new HR director about deeming who has essential functions. And that goes right into the continuity planning that we need to do. So we know who has the essential functions. So people know if they're supposed to show up to work if there was a cybersecurity event. And I'm sure that Vernon has talked to you about the fact that we did get the cybersecurity grant, which will allow us to write an annex to our emergency operations plan. So it's kind of all interwoven, but it would be great if we had those computers. I also went to a contractor for the design of a series of 3 disaster exercises. The first is a workshop, the second is a tabletop, and the third is a full-scale exercise. We would actually pull out all the equipment, run the ambulances for mass casualty. And so the reason that a contractor is requesting is that, one, we don't have the bandwidth in the staff to put all those resources to developing an exercise. 2, the staff that would be developing the exercise are the people that would be playing in the exercise. So you need the expertise in that area of health and patient tracking and triage and all these medical things. So that's why we put in for a very large opportunity there to get a contractor-led disaster exercise series, which my hope is that that is our #1 ask. And then the third is a dive team equipment for 3 sets of fins and vests and a bag to hold them to for 3 more people on the dive team for the sheriff. And this is 100% Homeland Security grant. There is no county match.
Is it reimbursable or does the money come in for you to spend?
Reimbursable.
We have to spend it up front.
Yes. It
So
is
what are
in
we
my
spending up front, Robin?
Well, I don't know yet because I don't know what's been approved. The submission date is March 1st for all of the bids and so forth. Then the group will meet probably in April. But I have $55,000 already in the budget line as a placeholder for Homeland Security grant because we knew this was coming.
Okay.
Okay, so you sort of have it covered.
Yep.
And the 3 asks, Bill, and for anybody that's interested is #1 was computers, 10 computers. Came in at approximately 15,000. The 3-part exercise series would be 56,000 and the dive team equipment was approximately 5,000. Depending on whether they're approved or not approved.
Okay, so that would be the max we would expect then, and that would be 15,000 over what you got in the budget, roughly.
Yes, and
20,000 over.
you know that 71,000 or so would, be
Yeah, it is, I get it.
it would be great because we get everything, but I don't think we'll get everything.
Is it something that are these reimbursements after it's all spent and then you turn in all receipts, or is there as we go along?
It's a full reimbursement after we're done with the project, or so the exercise series. I don't know how the contractor would want that done, if they need a quarterly payment, if they need to do it, split it into those phases. So that's something we could work on.
So if all 3
How long would it take normally to do that then? 2 months, a year?
This grant is 3 years.
So we gotta wait 3 years to get reimbursed?
I think it's probably reimbursable on a 3-part deal here. Once the computers were bought, they could be put in for.
Yeah, it's the
Uh,
exercise, the big
Once
one.
the So if all three of these were approved by the group that's vetting these applications, then it would be reimbursable in three parts because she has three separate asks.
Well, I don't know, Kevin, that, I think some of it has to occur.
It would be after the fact on each one of those, but we wouldn't have to wait for all three to be completed to get any reimbursement.
Yeah, I think though they were asking about the big one, the exercises. So, I can certainly ask that question.
I mean, the exercises are 56K. We'd have to wait for that to take place. Is that the 2-year deal?
Might be 3-year.
Okay,
Sure.
I don't know that I have I mean, I think I'm just confused as to whether we're paying for this out of this year's budget and then being reimbursed in another year's budget. It's that's a hit on this year's budget by definition.
yeah, you can't carry it over.
Yeah.
This has always been this way. But I wasn't here to know how they handled it.
The funds will not be available until fall of 2024,
Right.
what I'm seeing on the application.
Mhm. And then there'll be 3 years after that.
And we have no idea what they would go for and what they wouldn't go for.
So
So-
Robin, you said it's due tomorrow.
Mhm.
There's no way to call somebody and find out how it's reimbursed.
I can. I guess it depends on how you
helpful.
approve this today.
No, I do know that grants can carry over year to year, and the money should be available for when we spend it. That's how most grants that we've been working, work. But we can't wait for 3 years to go by before we ask for a reimbursement. So there's got to be a way of handling that. That's how it works with the public health.
Yeah, I don't know. I can find out.
And I
Yeah,
could
that would be
really,
good.
I could get behind the dive team project, roughly 4,000 some dollars. Because we already have the money budgeted for it, the computers as well. But with both those things is how are those maintained? Right, so a computer sits around for 5 years. And somebody's not making sure it gets updated every 2 months or every month. With the updates, we could be looking at all of a sudden a computer's 5 years old and we've not used it. And they've sat there and the batteries have exploded inside of them or.
They're not gonna sit there. They're gonna be tested. They would actually be used in routine use for the emergency operations center.
Okay.
And we would work with Vernon. It would be part of his cabinet
Okay.
to make sure, because we did deal with this issue at the state where we didn't do updates, and even for a month, if you come in there and you haven't done your Windows update, then all of a sudden you're trying to get on and it's,
Yeah, you've got
Doing
3
all that.
hours of updates.
yeah, it can be a real problem, but having computers that aren't on the network, because if you had a cyber incident, every computer in this county would be on the same network with the exception of DHS, who's on a state network, and I think Vernon has a separate server.
Yeah, so don't plug any devices into your computer from outside that aren't prepackaged.
And it
or
was
parts.
months in Fremont County, so before they did it. And then you're talking about retrieval of all the data that's been lost, trying to get the data back, and how far back would, I mean, you'd have a big problem, wouldn't you, Kelly? Yeah.
Yeah, and without, and I don't know all the details, I think Vernon and our IT department, Jordan have worked feverishly since that time to definitely protect us and serve us well. So
Right, and we applied for a grant that is providing us some new protections with the Falcon Defender program. He and I both attended a webinar on what kind of protection that's going to be giving us. It also allows us to have someone enter the computer system at the state level to help us neutralize that threat. So it's a separate portal. They're not in there except when there's a problem, and then they can help us solve it. And they were very helpful in the Fremont incident as well as the CDOT incident at the state level, which was, again, months of data recovery.
Just like we're here today, we've got some questions that we'd like to have answered. This is due tomorrow. It would be good to see something like this a week or two before it's due. So that if we have questions, we're gonna have adequate time to get them answered. Rather than the day before.
Can we make a provisional recommendation?
I could recommend going for the computer laptops and the 5,000 for the dive team, because we already have the money for that. But if we don't get the money till late fall, or, and does that mean awarded by late fall? The
It's
agency
awarded, but it won't be spent.
will not be available till fall of 24. So we're really looking at probably doing this, and depending on what fall looks like,
That
we
would
could be
be,
looking.
Budgeting for
next
the
year.
25.
that would have to be a
Mhm.
training program to take place in 3 parts in.
But it's really
25.
costing nothing. It's costing the processing of the reimbursement and the purchasing, but it's a zero cost to the county.
So no, it does cost the county, because it's got to route through finance department, it's got to be audited, because it is a federal fund. Federal grants have their own separate audits. So it does cost us some money. I mean, there's some monetary, and this is where, how much of the 15,000 or 5,000 or 56,000 can I use to support the finance department?
There's no admin on this account, on this grant.
Bill,
Oh, we've got you gotta apply in order to get the money. If we don't apply, then we're not gonna get the money at all. So what good are the computers? So, we're gonna have to apply. I think what she's saying, if we apply, we'll know what money we're dealing with for that fiscal year and on, and we can tailor what we've got. I believe that we're not gonna get it all either, possibly, but I don't see. So the risk is still the 20, no, yeah, we're gonna buy the 5 the computers up front. So I
Which
don't,
is in our budget.
I might have a suggestion here that might cure our qualms. If you were allowed to apply for this grant and then the answers that came back were not adequate to take care of our concerns, we don't have to accept that when it comes, correct? If we're awarded a grant, we can always say we do not want to take that grant at this point.
Yeah, and I don't have so much a problem with the grant itself. It's that it's the day before it's due. It's that I've got it in my inbox, the day before the day it's due. And we're talking about it in the meeting before it's due. And this requires work out of our IT department, out of our finance department, that we need to make sure that we are ready to take this on and we could administrate this all the way through and report appropriately so that we're not in trouble with the federal, the state, or any other region with our grants.
I will say I have gotten pre-approval for every grant I've applied for. I've turned in the appropriate paperwork for every grant I've applied for. This grant has been awarded to this county for about 4 years. So I did not anticipate this hiccup.
Okay. And so what's been our award rate? We've been awarded every one we've gone for?
I don't really know.
Okay.
We have one that's still hanging in the balance from Homeland Security.
Okay. Is
We,
that the security grant for the courthouse? Or
no,
that one's?
no, it's
Okay.
the air quality monitors.
Okay.
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 And last year we didn't apply because we were 5 days late, so we didn't get a piece of the pie at all.
Okay.
The previous year was the air quality monitors. The previous year was not applied for 2021. The 2020 Homeland Security grant was the variable message signs that
Oh.
they were spent out of ARPA money. And so we were able to do a scope change later in that 3-year period. We were very lucky. We didn't have to de-obligate. I worked very hard on that. And we got 60 radios for the schools for each teacher to have an emergency radio, two-way radio, which is also in the sheriff's office. So we have had some good luck in getting the grants, but if you just did the math, $300,000 divided by 6, which I would like to be able to just say, why don't we just do it that way? But that's not how this region divvies up the money. And so the average, if you just try to, do some math, would be about $60,000. So we desperately need this disaster exercise series, something that the sheriff has been asking for. And, we have a nexus to terrorism, but that, nexus to terrorism is really the same as practicing if it was a bus crash.
Mhm.
So it really would help all of us first responder agencies. So I think these are pretty good projects and really tried to ask other departments rather than just saying, OEM would take all of the grant projects. I've tried to reach out in partnership
Mhm.
within the county and have been working with Vernon to make sure that, we have Dell computers because that's what he likes and he thinks they're very durable and resistant. And so we're looking at that. We're looking at a mid-range computer, not a really expensive computer, because we do know that, there will be times when it was sitting around. And so the cybersecurity, I think, is extremely important, and the dive team has new members and we can grow their capacity. So I think they're great projects.
Okay.
And I like Kevin's idea of just approving this, and then we come back, as we had talked about in other grants, to do a budget amendment if that was needed. Because there is $55,000 in this year's budget, not that we'll actually spend it in this year if we don't get it till October, but.
Okay, let me help break the log jam here. I'll make a motion. The $15K for the computers, do you need new computers regardless of this grant or not?
We need one new computer, yes, for sure.
Okay, so in your budget, you should have some capital money to buy that computer. You also have other money in your budget for OEM that you can do some puts and takes depending on what happens before you come to the commissioners or come to other departments that aren't spending the money, which we're going to do. Periodically, we're going to have a look at all the departments and see how we're spending against the plan. So I think it's a safe gamble to go ahead and approve this, because if you don't ask for it, you don't get it. And we can tailor it. The worst thing we can do is turn down a grant, because then they, that's money that could have been allocated to somebody else, and sometimes they lose that opportunity. So we have to be careful. So I think we could probably risk this, guys. So I will move accept this proposal to let the OEM apply for the what's this called, the Homeland Security Grant? Is that all it's called?
Mhm.
And then, like Kevin said, we're always going to be looking at these. We don't have to make, we will be looking at it and we can decide that if things are really drastic and we can't afford to spend the other 15K that we might not have to, if it's fully awarded, then we'll find another way of getting it, or we will just not spend that money.
Okay,
My proposal, I move we do that.
All right, I'll second.
all right, I have a motion on the floor to approve applying for the Homeland Security Grant by OEM. Further discussion. I think I would just say I would like to start seeing things sooner if we could. And I know you've had a lot going on, but if we could get them a week or two before the actual due date, that would be great.
And you hold all departments accountable then.
I will try to do that. That's what I'm trying to do with everyone.
Mhm.
And so anyone that comes with one that's due the next day, I will say the same thing. I'm not singling you out in any way, shape, or form. But when we get something the day before and we don't have much time to look at it, I will ask that it comes in a week or so earlier.
Well, I look forward to our staff report because I'll have another grant request.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That will be fine.
Appreciate it.
By the way, don't go yet just yet, because that was a good point.
We haven't made a decision yet.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and one other point to make is, I was gonna ask if there are other grants you'll be applying for, and I'm assuming that's in your budget. The new grants, other grants other than this.
No, it's not in my budget.
Oh, you're gonna come to us with another request for a grant that's not in your budget, is what you just said then. Okay, well, we'll cross that bridge when you get there, as long as we get it in plenty of time.
But, and that's how some of this is going to work. If we know of a grant that's coming up, let's budget the matching for going for that grant. Grants that pop up out of nowhere or that we all of a sudden discover, we can always do, if we approve to go after that grant, we can always do a budgeted adjustment resolution and then adjust that budget. So
That's true, court, if we have the money, and that's what our job is to understand that, and exactly what you're saying, Luke, is right on, spot on.
yeah, depending on whether there's a match or not. I mean, we'll see what she presents.
All right. So I do have a motion on the floor. And we've reached a point for public comment on this particular item. Mr. Gilbert.
Yeah, my comment regards the process that you guys are going through for this. Once again, I do not understand why a department director who is, among other things, admonished, I guess, to apply for funds via the grant process is second guessed on applying for the grant. In this, isn't it the department director's responsibility in the application for the grant to understand how her budget is running, where the budget would be impacted, and when it would be impacted? This one is pretty simple. The money's not available till fall. The long-term project that takes the most money would probably be in her budget either next year or the year after. So all this reimbursement payment stuff is really a moot point. You're talking about stuff that would be done by her planning in applying for the grant. And I don't understand why you as commissioners come into this and nitpick all of what the department director's responsibility is to plan this whole thing out such that she's getting the county extra money for the cost of a little bit of day-to-day functionality in the department. So I really don't understand why you're even considering the application process. It makes, to me, no sense. Obviously, if, this grant impacted such she had to spend unbudgeted money at a given point in time in order to do what she planned to do, then you would say yes or no, because you wouldn't have the budget to reimburse that expense. That's not in her budget. But if she budgeted the expense for the program, let's say, next year, let's reimburse the following year, she budgeted that. So that'd be fine. I really don't understand why this period of half an hour at least with some contention was even had.
Thank you, James.
I would comment one quick response to that, and then we'll get to you, John. Most of my angst came because of the fact that it was here the day
Yeah,
before.
I understand that.
That's the crux of my angst.
Yeah,
Um,
and you wouldn't really care if you didn't have to worry about it, if you didn't worry about it in the process, because
all
I'm
right,
surprised you're even considering it, but
John,
that's just me.
John Van Dorn, so several things here, all kinds of things come up with this conversation. Let's just assume that, everything is awarded in three parts. The two parts that are the smaller amount, the computers and the dive team, they could actually be completed this year easily and would be within budgeted dollars. And we're really talking about cash flow here. We're not talking about, we're talking about the time cost of money, because there is cost to that. We're talking about admin, which is another question altogether. So any grant that anybody submits right now, if it's allowed under the grant, should have some admin dollars in it, because that's a real expense for us. Getting back to, let's say we're awarded everything. And the big number is the training and the exercise. We could get that award this year and not spend $1 towards it, and then put it in next year's budget or the following year's budget, because we've got 3 years. So I don't see any cash flow issues if we're awarded that. It's just not going to be there. Because we can wait till next year. It probably takes that much time to just get our ducks in a row. So I don't see any problems with the first two. I don't see any problem with the third, the larger one. I think they're all, necessary and good things for us to be doing as a county. But I think the one point that Commissioner brought up about the admin, it probably applies to every grant we go after. Some grants you're going to say, hey, I'm not paying for any admin, but it will be open on the other grants, and that's money that we have to spend, and it's resources, demands on resources that are thin. Am I within 5 minutes, Kevin?
you're about 3.5, I think.
All right.
You did great.
And
Thank you, sir.
John.
I just want to say I appreciate public support on this. I do know there's no admin for this grant. I definitely pay attention to that. The last grant I presented that you approved has a 5% admin cost. And so that despite the fact that, it's more money coming in, it's covering the salary, that is going to increase reporting, because I then have to track my hours for each one of the grants. So just to be sure that you understand, there is a check and balance on that as well. And so if I'm funded by 3 grants, then that means I'm tracking my time in 3 ways. And so it does make it a little bit more complicated. So we definitely look for those grants that have the admin attached to it. And I also look for the in-kind volunteer labor, and hoping to recruit a bigger volunteer crew and be able to capture that for the grants so that I have volunteer leaders and my guidance and support is really carried out through these grassroots efforts.
No, thank you.
Good. Thank you.
And thank you for going after it.
All right.
Can I make a last comment or somebody else got one?
No, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, just to wrap it up, Robin, we have full support from the county for this. There's no question about it. What we have, and I want the public to understand, is we're starting off with new processes, procedures, and policies. Normally, we would have and we do it every year, we have a budget meeting. And Robin would come to us, and she will in the future, like she has, doing exactly what we just heard everybody say they should do, and without taking up the public's time to do it. Meaning, she knows she's going to apply for the grant. She has the cost. She knows how she's going to cover it, and we all agree with whatever the proposed budget's going to be. So bear with us. We are changing how we're doing things. Our CIC system is going to be working great. Again, we're going to have the department heads able to have ready access to their budgets. We're going to be double checking them. And we're going to have reviews where we're going to be moving money around periodically within the budget year. So that we'll all be participating. So anyway, you just watched stuff that happened that could and will happen in the future in a different way that won't be time consuming in meetings like this. So good job. Thanks for bringing it to us, Robin.
Thank you, Bill, for your support. I appreciate, asking the hard questions because it gets me ready for the next one.
Yeah, and Kevin's absolutely right. We need it earlier. And like I said, we can get it earlier by months ahead and when you do it at the budget time. But when this happens, I know things happen. So
yeah,
we'll get it.
and I'm trying not to throw anybody under the bus here because we requested $75,000 for this grant to be in our budget. And as a result of all of our follies here getting the budget put together, we have only 55,000 in the budget. So our planning was actually better than how it ended up on paper with the budget. So I think that's also part of the problem. And we're addressing the budget analysis just ahead of maybe where you're even thinking. We are monthly now going in and making sure that all of our expenses and all of our things are put in the right lines on a monthly basis. We have a form that tracks that, and then we have a log so that we can support that. Not only are we doing it, but we're giving it to finance so that they can fix those human errors for the most part.
All right. Okay. Bob.
Very quickly, first of all, I would recommend that commissioners do approve this grant application today. Secondly, I think it is a good idea to get the information to the commissioners prior to a meeting. So, Mr. Chairman, when you say a week or two or whatever it is, I think that's a good idea. Thirdly is the comment that was made regarding, she just Homeland Security folks, doing it on themselves. I think if you have all the information, I think it's a good check mark to come in front of the commissioners and just take a 5-minute briefing. You got the information, but that way you got a little more control.
Thank you. Not seeing anything online. So I do have a motion on the floor to approve OEM going for the Homeland Security Grant as brought to us today. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion does carry. So congratulations.
Thank you. We'll carry on and do more work.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. Au revoir, Bill.
Au revoir, Mademoiselle.
Okay, any additional items of business?
I don't think so, sir.
Mr. Candace?
Nothing here.
All right. None for me. That will bring us to public comment time. Do we have any public comment at this time? Well,
Okay, yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm here today to support hydrologist and general manager for the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District. The gentleman that I believe has contacted you folks, to what extent, I don't know if it's conversation or his resume. Gersten has been with the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District for about 16 or 18 years. I saw him evolve and develop from a part-time position to now applying for a full-time position. He is extremely highly qualified, and I think you've all seen his resume. Okay, and I watch him evolve, I watch him develop, and the new things that he has brought forth to the district has been just excellent. He's worked very closely with water companies, entities up and down the Arkansas River. He's probably the best, most knowledgeable person of water and water rights and storage rights. Drinking water, he's done just numerous things, as you've seen in his resume. As past chairman of the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District, I am in support of him. I have written letters in support of him. And I would ask that the county commissioners give consideration today to go ahead and write a letter of support for York. And if need be, to email it up to the Upper Ark, I will hand carry it if so you so wish to the general manager. And the reason for this is general manager Terry Stain, that's his name, is retiring. So this is a natural step, I think, for York. And you take a look at the qualifications, and I just in closing say, you know, this is a guy that has a BS degree in watershed science at Colorado State University, comes highly qualified, and probably one of the most qualified hydrologists, knowledge of the Arkansas drainage, which includes Fremont, Tracy, Custer County, a little bit of Saguache County, and a little bit of El Paso County. So that is the district size, and he has been involved in everything that you can imagine. I recommend him. I would like to see and ask that the commissioners consider giving this a short letter of recommendation for that position. It will then go into a selection committee, and the committee will then decide who they are going to recommend, and then from that point, it goes to the full board of the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District to make that final decision.
When is the selection committee meeting?
I'm sorry.
When is the selection committee meeting?
It has been going on for probably a month and a half. The finalization of it is March 3rd, Sunday.
I couldn't hear. What was the date deadline?
March 3rd.
March 3rd. Kind of goes back to the agenda item not being on the agenda. I will abstain probably from this discussion because I have already signed a letter of support for someone on this, so I will back out of this conversation and leave it up to you other two gentlemen.
We,
The problem is it's a discussion that's not on the agenda. And especially if there's competing people involved. We're gonna run into a problem if someone says, well, wait a second, I think I should have had a say as to why the board should support me in this endeavor. I got a problem with the board doing this and not being on the agenda.
And I've stayed away from making any personal recommendations as a BOCC member out there for anybody in the private sector, period, because I can make it as Lucas F, but I cannot make it as a BOCC member, right? Because that's what they want behind it. They want as a commissioner.
Well, I think you can individually do that, but you can't say the board supports person X.
So if Bill and I wanted to support this person, or I just wanted to support this guy,
Yeah,
that'd be fine.
absolutely.
Okay. Then I think we leave it there and. Yes, sir.
I guess I would make a comment, if there was anyone that was interested in doing this. It would behoove them to come to you, and have a say-so. So all of these people have had this, opportunity for months. And if they haven't shown up here or a representative of there, then I would agree with the legal counsel, but I think in this particular case, it's been adequate time, and I think it's time for a decision.
let me make a quick comment on that too, because I looked into it a little bit.
Yeah,
Dan,
go ahead.
I hear what you're saying, but I disagree from one aspect because it's not the county is impacted by the Upper Arkansas Conservancy District actions, their process. And we can make a decision as a county to be thankful for that or to support the management of that. I believe we can. And it's not, and there's not an obligation for us to go and we're not a interview in the interview process to vet these applicants. We're just making a recommendation of who we think could handle that job based upon our experience with that person in the district that we need to support our water needs. So I believe that it wouldn't be illegal or immoral or unethical to have the board do that if we voted to do that. Individually, there's absolutely no problem. I'm a ex officio member of that board, and I have seen the value of Yord and I've had the opportunity to see how he interacts with other people. So I have no compunction at all about recommending him personally, and I would recommend him to the board for approval as a board action because of the significant needs to protect our water in this county, and Yord knows we have a significant they have a significant impact on our water up here. So that's my 2 cents, but I think we can.
Yeah.
So
I will let you comment, even though we don't have a motion on the floor,
Oh,
so.
I can wait for it.
Probably would be better, because there's no motion on the floor at this time.
Well, Bill, are you gonna make a motion?
I would move that we support it personally. I think it's a valid request. If Kevin wants to abstain because he may be, that's fine. It's if you want to do it separately, Lucas, individually, that's okay with me also, but I would move that we do support this request.
So well, okay, so. I'll make the motion to continue so we can have conversation. So I'll second that motion. Here's the second time today in this meeting that we've talked about not adding agenda items or being careful about being very transparent about what we talk about on these meetings. And I want to try to drive us back to that. So that those who are interested, our citizens, have that, we show that respect to them, we show that. Because if we don't, pretty soon we're gonna get hijacked in public comment. And we are going to be forced into a corner. Well, this is the precedence that we've set up, that somebody can bring up something in public comment and we're all of a sudden gonna make a decision on it. Now, in an emergency, maybe that's warranted and it's maybe a case by case instance, but if we open this up, we're always gonna be, give a kid an inch, he's gonna take a mile, and I mean, no disrespect against any of our citizens, but we open ourselves up to public comment will then become a meeting in itself of people wanting us to take motions. And maybe we should have had this on the agenda. I thought we had till the 9th. I didn't think it was the 3rd, but
yeah, let me get back to that. You bring up a good point. I 100% agree with you. And in fact, I was gonna put it on the agenda for the 2nd of March. I think that's our next meeting in it. Cause I thought we had until the 9th also. I'm surprised the heck out of me. Now, when is our next meeting?
6th.
I'm sorry, the 6th, what I'm saying. So, yeah, I knew, when I looked at it, there was enough time to go ahead and do that. To understand what it was, because we brought this up when I brought it forward last week, wasn't it? So that's why I didn't put it on, but I should have probably. But anyway, bottom line is we are where we are, and if we decide not to do that, Lucas, I will go ahead and send a recommendation in also separately, if you don't feel comfortable.
no, I really don't, and I will send in a letter of recommendation to because I agree, looking at that resume, that person is very experienced in what Bob said. So I think we need to make those individual, and we just need to be more diligent about having stuff on our agendas that we really need to deal with.
Yeah, I agree. We skin the cat a different way, and I think it'll have the same impact, so I'm not concerned.
Okay. I do have a motion on the floor, so I will let you speak, Mr. Gilbert.
Okay, well, first I'm gonna reiterate what Lucas just said, is that you shouldn't be entertaining in public comment proposals that require a motion and a vote and whatnot. Public comment is for just that. And secondly, once again, I'm not sure that it's I know it's not the responsibility of the Board of County Commissioners of a county to speak for all its citizens in a matter of an election of anything, whether it's a political election or an apolitical election. It would be as if the board endorsed one candidate for school board in the county. I don't think it's your job to vote for us, even if we can't vote. So that was my comment on this particular comment. My last public comment is,
Right now, it's only for the item up for, on the
well,
motion.
that's right, because there's a motion. I'm sorry.
And then I think you already had a public comment.
Not in this section, it is public comment.
Okay,
Only one public comment.
we only have one. Okay, any further on this particular motion? I will defer to Dan here first.
I just want to make it clear, in response to Commissioner Kanda, that I wasn't suggesting that it's not the job of the board or not within the purview of the board to endorse individual candidates for individual jobs. I think that's certainly within the purview of what the board can do. I don't have any comment on whether that's what the board should or shouldn't do. In this case, I don't, that's not my job. And it's not a political candidate. This isn't an election. This is the, district hiring someone to take charge of the district, as I understand it, to replace Mr. Skanga, who's been there forever, since as long as I've been around. And so it's a pretty important, selection for Custer County, and so it would make sense that the board would make a recommendation on that. My issue is that we haven't provided the public any notice whatsoever that the board was going to consider this. And if there are other candidates out there who might be interested in this position and might be interested in the board's endorsement, they had no notice that they could come to the board and say, here's why you should pick me instead of this other person, or vice versa. And I think it's as has been mentioned, it's a bad precedent to set to start entertaining motions as a result of public comment that aren't already on the agenda.
Bob, I'll let you speak here.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to point out that, I sat on that board for 36 years and brought to this county a water augmentation plan with the help of your. Secondly, endorsements in the past, I have had endorsements from the town of Westcliff, town of Silver Cliff, and the county commissioners, as well as attorneys and a judge.
Okay.
I think it's appropriate to make a comment. You're not electing anybody. All you're saying you're supporting it.
That's correct.
That's all you're doing.
My mistake, I thought it was an election, I didn't realize. it was
No,
higher.
you're not.
All
I
right,
did, yeah. my
And it
mistake.
was published in the.
gentlemen, please. All right. I'm not seeing any hands online, so, on the motion that's on the floor,
You wanted me to withdraw that motion? I can do that.
if you would like to, I would entertain that.
Then I'll move that to withdraw that motion because I think it makes it easier for Lucas and I to go ahead and endorse them ourselves.
All right. Okay, motion is withdrawn. All right, we were in public comment. Go ahead, sir.
What?
You gave me 30 seconds yesterday. I don't know why you truncated my ability to speak. However, I implore you to adjourn this meeting as soon as possible and go get your shot.
Thank you, sir.
30
Less than
seconds.
20 seconds. Good job. I did tell him he only had 30 seconds.
Oh, that's right, you did.
All right, any other public comment before we adjourn? That being the case, I will adjourn this meeting at 10:42 a.m.